Senator Bob Menéndez unveiled an immigration plan on April 18th that relies heavily on executive action to address migration flows in the Western Hemisphere. Executive action works, and humanitarian parole works, and Senator Bob Menéndez wants Biden to do more because Congress is not acting. Menendez's proposal reads that it largely includes policies that President Biden can pursue without Congress until Republicans decide to come to the table and help the administration manage the current immigration challenges. Menéndez, who is the Senate Foreign Relations Committee chairman, is attempting to reset President Biden's approach to the issue of immigration, pivoting to real-world solutions from the political tug-of-war where the conditions at the border constitute a crisis. Menéndez told CNN this morning, "I don't call it a crisis, but it can become one if you understand that there are 20 million people in the Western Hemisphere, in Latin America, in Central America, in the Caribbean, West Indies, who are displaced, who are refugees, who are seeking asylum across the hemisphere. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that unless we work with other countries in our own hemisphere, they're going to march north." The proposal focuses on 4 pillars to effectively manage migration to the Americas: an expansion of legal pathways for immigrants to the United States, an increase in border security resources, expanded aid to countries in the region to amplify their own asylum and refugee programs, and increased efforts to combat organized crime and smuggling. The plan reads, successive U.S. administrations have designed their domestic and foreign policies to respond to shifting needs at the border, an approach that has not created a sustainable long-term solution to a mixed flow of migrants and refugees. That approach, according to the plan, has created an immigration system that's enforcement-driven, reactive, and overly focused on punitive policies, overly focused on deterring migrants once they arrive at the borders, overly focused on arresting people. This plan's new proposals rely heavily on executive action. These are things that President Biden can do with a stroke of the pen. He does not need Congress. And this is a recognition that immigration reform has been out of reach for decades and that Congress is ineffective. Congress will not change the law. And Senator Menéndez is urging President Biden, who has already made programs for Haiti, programs for Ukraine, programs for Nicaragua, programs for Cuba, to make more programs for more countries. It was warmly received by immigrant advocates. Kerry Talbot, Deputy Director of the Immigration Hub, an immigration policy advocacy group, applauded the plan's focus on so-called, quote, push factors like political repression in places like Cuba, Venezuela, or Nicaragua, and its focus on enabling legal pathways rather than deterrence to address economic and social pull factors. Pull factors are something that pulls you out of your country and into the United States of America. The plan calls for an increase in U.S. funding for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees on the premise that the Western Hemisphere hosts 20% of the world's at-risk population, but only receives 8% of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees budget. This proposal from a top Democratic player, Senator Menéndez, is the head of a Senate committee, and he is a top Democratic player in the immigration space, comes ahead of the May 11th deadline for the end of Title 42, a border management policy tied to the pandemic emergency. Administration officials have scrambled to find a replacement for Title 42, which allows officials to ignore asylum claims and quickly expel migrants at the border. The Menéndez proposal also comes a day after Republicans unveiled their first comprehensive border plan. A 130-page bill due for consideration in the House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. Menéndez plans takes aim at some of these Republican immigration policies. including the practice by some Republican-led states to relocate migrants to Democratic-controlled cities, often without coordinating logistics. Under Menendez's plan, migrants would be relocated to their final destinations within the United States by federal authorities working in conjunction with the state and local governments. The plan reads, federal relocation by the Department of Homeland Security is needed to end the current challenge of states independently sending migrants to major urban centers without intergovernmental coordination.
Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.